A little while ago, I started to cover this story with some reluctance, but also because I just, something about me sensed that something was weird about it, and I continue to think that. I'm going to talk about a few things that relate to Aubrey Plaza and her deceased husband, Jeff Baena, who was a director, like a independent film director, and who apparently allegedly hanged himself in late December. But there, let's just talk about a couple things here to sort of bring things up to date with this whole thing. First of all, I don't think that Aubrey Plaza, there's a picture of the two of them together. I don't think that she has actually said anything to anyone about this. You can look back at my prior videos, which I did a couple weeks ago, I guess, on the subject. I've left alone for a while, but there was a time when media sources were saying Aubrey Plaza breaks her silence and speaks about her the tragedy of her husband's death and blah blah blah. When she didn't actually say anything about it. It was a release that I was going to say press release. I guess that's what it would be called. Something put together by a publicist or a lawyer, or it's something like we are all, our hearts are sick over this tragedy and blah blah blah. But she didn't step out from behind that press release and say say I'm really sad about this. I'm really devastated. Now, don't get me wrong. Not that she has to. Not that there's a script that one has to. I don't know how you're supposed to handle something like this. But anyway, that didn't happen. And soon after that, although all the media made it sound like that was happening, that wasn't what happened. Then a few other things, which I won't repeat here. You can go back and watch my earlier videos on this subject if you want. Then this story in mid-January, a couple weeks ago. Now, this is the way they phrase it in Evie magazine, which is really, I think, not the most honest way to cover this subject. The headline, as you can see, says Aubrey Plaza deletes Instagram after husband's death as men cheer her nearly single status. So Evie magazine is like a conservative women's magazine. Every so often they have these men, damn men. Why just a bunch of pornography addicts? Why won't they just step up to the plate and be real men? There's that sort of strand. Although, to their credit, Evie magazine has published some pro-male, pro-man, anti-feminist material. There's also sometimes where they stoop to this kind of level. And this is really okay. The part below the sub-headline says Aubrey Plaza deactivated her Instagram after her husband Jeff Baena's tragic death as men disturbingly cheered about her being single. I read over the comments just because I was curious to see what others were saying. Again, whenever somebody in Hollywood dies mysteriously, and in this case, I would call it a mystery, because why did he do it? If the official story is what the truth is, of course, and I'm open to the possibility that it isn't. And we all get to have our doubts. Nobody is obliged to believe what we're told in the media about something. So those of you who want to come after me and say, "Oh, come on, it's just a conspiracy. Don't be into these conspiracy theories all the time." Look, uh, I would like to know, why the guy suddenly hanged himself. What was going on there? If that's the case, and if that was the case, why these other seemingly moving parts, including something that was in Crazy Days and Nights, which I talked about in a prior video, with a mysterious death of a producer, somebody who produced a lot of his films in, oh, where was it? In Grand Cayman, which is what was referred to as the money laundering country. It does have that. It does have that sort of reputation. But anyway, this happened. What did definitely happen is that she deleted her Instagram, or she deactivated her Instagram. And this article tries to make it sound like the reason why she did it was because men came on and said, "Oh goody, her husband's dead. Now she's single." Hee hee hee. And there were a few comments like that, but I've got to say most of the comments were just, "Oh, we're so sorry, Aubrey. We're sending our thoughts and prayers." Blah blah blah, and people writing that kind of stuff, which I guess it's okay, but on the other hand, is she really reading her comments, guys? I mean, you really think she's turning to if she's turning to her Instagram comment section for to relieve her grief over her husband's death? Anyway, this just seemed like a silly kind of. This was cited as a cause, but the truth is we don't know why she deactivated her Instagram. We don't know. Maybe there were a lot of people coming on saying what I'm kind of saying here, which is, what really happened. What's beyond the headlines, and maybe that's, maybe that wasn't something that was deemed beneficial for her to have on her Instagram. Maybe it had nothing to do with her. Maybe she didn't make that decision at all. Maybe it was. I mean, every public figure who's on social media, it's not just that person on social media, and many times it's not even that person. They may just have proxies who write all of their material. Let's not be naive about this stuff, honestly. So there's something really like something happens, like somebody writes in the comment section on Instagram or YouTube or something like that and thinks, "Oh, I'm sure, oh, Aubrey, we feel so sad for you. We're thinking about you every day." Like she actually is reading that. All right. So now let's turn to the latest. This is an article by somebody who knew Jeff Baena. Fellow filmmaker Alex Ross Perry pays tribute to Aubrey Plaza's late husband. Now, I talked about the movie Joshi. This movie was made or it came out in 2016. The premise of the movie is it's about this guy who has a quote-unquote bachelor party on the date that he rented this house to have a bachelor party. But what he did not count on happening was 3 months earlier, his girlfriend, his fiancée, hanged herself for no apparent reason. 2016. I mean, that's pretty as predictive programming, if you want to call it that, goes. That's pretty striking instance of it. Anyway, Alex Ross Perry was one of the actors in this this movie, written and directed by Alex Baena. There's a picture of him, and it's mostly just a, sentimental, encomium for a friend, saying, I could never put into words what Jeff Baena meant to those of us who called him a friend. I probably shouldn't even try. I was a visitor in Jeff's life in his home. Other people lived much closer to him, literally and otherwise. All right, so this is kind of strange. This is the guy who's writing this tribute article to Jeff Baena, and in the first paragraph he says, "Well, I didn't really know the guy that well. I mean, I liked him. He seemed like a great guy, and we had fun together. But a lot of other people knew him a lot better than me. So why are you writing this piece? And why aren't they?" I mean, that seems like a worthwhile question to me. Jeff is gone now, but the house he built will remain. His life's work was creating for dozens, maybe hundreds, a sense of personal people, a sense of community that reflect all aspects of his personality. There's basketball Jeff, poker Jeff, game night Jeff, and it goes on and on. You can read the article if you want. Movie lover Jeff. All right. I had the privilege of being convinced to spend a month with this Jeff. He asked me to play a central role in his second film, Joshi. I'd known him for less than a year. We had bonded for mutual love of games, and he wanted me to character not unlike myself at a bachelor weekend, mostly wanting to avoid strippers and booze in favor of setting up a game table. I didn't want to do it because I was intimidated by the improvisational structure of the film, and going toe-to-toe with undeniable comic powerhouses like Thomas Middleditch, Adam Pally, Nick Kroll, and Ben Gelman. Joe Swanberg said I had no choice be the guy who helps the filmmaker make the movie he sees in his head. Jeff saw Joshi in his head, and I was in it, so I was in it. Okay. So he goes on a bit, and it's there's nothing wrong. I'm not meaning to cast any aspersions on the author of this article. It seems perfectly sincere. But again, like he's saying all this stuff about how Jeff Baena seemed like a great guy, and he was happy to make this film with him, and he liked to play poker and liked to do other things, and we had fun together. He was a fun guy. Okay. So this is interesting. No personality was larger than any others except for Jeff's. You'd sometimes get the feeling his wife, Aubrey Plaza, was content to be another guest at game night, even in her own home. It wasn't her party. When the door opened and the players came through, Jeff and Aubrey's house became Jeff's house, with Jeff's rules. Okay. That's interesting. It's sort of saying, I don't know. It's not. I'm not going to say anything specific there. I'm aware that I'm treading on the border of bad taste by even talking about this stuff and wondering the things that I'm wondering. Some of which I have made explicit, some of which I have not. Okay. Controversial required people entering his home to take COVID-19 tests well into 2013. Okay, well, shoot. That's Hollywood, I guess. He'd hold court and tell you facts and opinions of his. Turns out all his opinions were facts. Explain why a movie you liked was bad or a review of yours should be revisited, and then give you some remedy for your diet or health issues. Okay, so kind of making him seem like a know-it-all here. but I guess affectionately, I wouldn't tolerate having to take COVID-19 tests. I would say F that, but anyway, blah, 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 blah. So there's one other thing I wanted to get to here. Okay, so he concludes this article by writing, but that is only a fraction of the story. That is one room in the house that Jeff built, a house with a door that was always open, food and drinks for all, probably something to smoke, and plenty of friends or future friends waiting to greet you. I lived too far away. I saw Jeff too infrequently. I'm not the person to write about Jeff's house. I'm a person who's writing about Jeff's house. I'd like to read 10 other recollections of other people's experiences of being at the house. The one he lived in or the one he built to bring his creative family together. Okay, so I'd like to read 10 other recollections. Why are none of those 10 other people who knew him better, why aren't any of them writing tributes to their friend? Why is it this guy, this guy who liked him but didn't know him very well, who's I don't know, doing this service of writing him this tribute? I find it strange that that's the case. Another thing that's strange is if I were Alex Ross Perry and I'd been involved with a movie written by a guy who 9 years after you, or I guess 8 years, it was still 2024, 8 years after you made this movie, hanged himself for seemingly no apparent reason. And there was a movie about a guy who was left bereft after his girlfriend, played by Alison Brie, suddenly hanged herself for no apparent reason. I would say something about that. I would point that out and I would say, I find this really strange and it makes me shudder. I wonder what was going on in his psyche that he would write about something like this, and then 8 years later, we would see what happened. We would see him reach his own end in a way that, again, seems like again, quote unquote, predictive programming. I know there's another, seems weirdly prophetic. I'll just put it that way. Because if you watch the movie Joshi, and it's an okay movie. It's kind of funny. And kind of charming, kind of heartfelt, and and all that. But if you watch the movie, that's really kind of a loose end. It's something that happens in the first 10 minutes or so. The sudden he suddenly finds his girlfriend having hanged herself, and it's never explained. Nobody understands why she did it. Nobody knows why she did it. There's no effort to understand, or no effort to explain why she did it. Everyone just seems baffled about it. So that seems like a glaring fact that he says nothing about in this article. He doesn't even touch on. If I'd been involved with that movie, that would be the first thing I would think of. That would be something that would really stand out to me. So again, why this guy? If, as he even admits in the article a couple of times, he's not the ideal person to write a tribute because he didn't know him that well. There are lots of people who knew him better, who could write better tributes. That's one thing. Another thing, why why not mention this uncanny parallel between the plot of the movie and what allegedly happened to him. Again, there's so much about this story that just doesn't strike me as adding up. That's all. So anyway, those are my thoughts at this point. Tell me what you think. Leave your comments below.